get more satisfaction.
Hello everybody and welcome to my studio. What happened to my studio? Well, if you're following me on my Twitch channel, then you probably already know the answer to that. But for now, let's just go ahead and just say I'm converted this to a workspace. But enough mysteriousness, let's go ahead and get into the video. Last year, a friend of mine wanted to get into DJing, so I went ahead and I bought her a set of decks. Unfortunately, we found out that the play button had become dislodged last time that we were playing around on it, and so it needs to be fixed. So let me go ahead and introduce you to the Gemini GMX.
Aw, here we go! Get down on the deck! The Gemini GMX! Come on, Mr. DJ, hit the cue and then the play with the Gemini, all one DJ!
So the Gemini GMX is a 2-channel standalone or virtual DJ controller. My minimum requirement when I'm DJing is that I need a unit that's going to be able to work by itself, or sometimes you would call it a standalone mixer. So what that means is that if I just had a USB key, I can plug it in either to the front or to the back and just DJ straight from my USB key. It's not required to DJ through a laptop. That's just my preference. I have no problem if somebody else prefers to DJ from their laptop. I just don't do it myself. Before we get into all that, let's go ahead and just fix this guy up. So you'll see right here, this play button is a little askew, and it's because it's come unseated from, whatever it is that's holding that together. So I'm going to go ahead and try to crack this open and see if we can get that back up like that so it'll work again. Now, I'm going to take a moment right now to have my usual, don't try this at home. If you're a professional, do it at your work. If you're not a professional, then find a professional. If you have one of these units and something like this happens, talk to maybe the dealer that you bought it from or to Gemini and see if they can get those repairs for you. Don't necessarily try it yourself. I'm doing it on here so that you don't have to. Aha, there we go. Pretty cool stuff in here. Now what I need to get to is right here, so we're gonna have to pull this whole thing apart. Now remember, when you're working with the circuit board, you always wanna make sure that any of your static electricity is discharged from you and from the device. So even though this isn't plugged into a power supply, if I gave this a shock because of my own static energy, then it could ruin the entire board. So you always want to make sure that you're grounded. You tap something that's metal, get rid of any of that discharge before you start working on these. Easy enough. If we look under here, unfortunately, it looks like this might have snapped. So right here, you can see there was a little piece of plastic, like a little arm or something, that sat right in here. So it looks like the spring action that it used to have will no longer work. I have an idea of how to fix it. It's not my most ideal fix, but it'll make it work again. So normally I would try to replace this whole part, which I may still eventually do. It just looks like a little plastic thing that you can clip in and out. But for the meantime, I think I might have to use an adhesive and try to get that to stick to this piece inside here. So Let me go ahead and grab that and we'll see if we can get it. There's too much coming out at once, so I'm going to use this toothpick to help me apply it. What I don't want to have happen is put on this play button and then the glue ends up coming off, because if the glue comes off, then it could make that switch seize up. No joke, this is it's like a balancing act. Maybe what I can do is take this piece out and we can try to work on it there. There we go. Maybe what I can try is to re-adhere this part together. Unfortunately, I only have one leg because this one is snapped. But maybe just having this one may help us through this. I just gotta try to hold this here for a minute. Maybe a minute will do. Okay. Tentatively, it looks like that's working.
A few minutes later.
We might be ready to at least place this back in there. Looks like I got a little bit of glue on there, but that's gonna be all right. I don't know if you noticed, when I first took this apart, there was a small plastic piece, and I didn't know what it was. Now I know what it was. Unfortunately, it looks like I have lost that piece. All right. And now we need to get all these screws back into place. Okay, finally got these back up. So let's go ahead and connect it to the base again. Okay. I think we got it back in there. Yes, that looks secure again. And how did this turn out? It looks like we should be good. Let's go ahead and get all the rest of the screws back in here too. Ta-da! All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this guy. So what we have over here is our outputs. If you wanted to, you could use XLR cables, which are essentially mic cables. These guys are going to be RCA, which you can go with, with a number of different speakers or options or anything like that. So one thing I'll bring out is that this one has a master and a booth out. So I'll explain that in just a little bit, but this one is one of the important things that I was looking for when I picked this up. Having a separated master and booth is really helpful when you're DJing, especially when it comes for streams and stuff. Of course, we have our USB, which is like if you wanted to plug in a flash drive to here. We also have our USB 2.0, which is when you connect it to a PC or a Mac if you were using virtual DJ, and our power cable, and of course our power on and off. This one also has one of those little K-lock things so that it doesn't get jacked or anything like that. On the flip side, we have a 1/4-inch mic input, and then this is our input adjustment for that mic. And then we have an 1/8-inch and a 1/4-inch jack for headphones. So these can actually be used simultaneously, and that can also help if you're DJing with another person. So you can both have your pairs of headphones in and it'll work out for you. Now up here on the top, we have another centralized USB. So since we have this one and the one on the back, you could have two different USB keys loaded with two different bits of information to be able to DJ from. So again, if you're doing a collaborative set, then each person could bring their own set of music and be able to DJ on either side. One favorite audio cable of mine is an RCA on one side, so I have the red and white, and on the other side is just a 1/4-inch headphone jack. So this lets me plug it into basically anything I want to. So in this case, I'm just going to use my Bluetooth speaker here.
Oh no! Remember when I reinserted that large plug? Remember when I said, oh, I think that must be secure? Well, it's not. In fact, I had to pull apart the entire device and put it back together again. Well, let's try this one more time, shall we?
Yes, that's much better. So right now you'll see that it's just searching for devices, and that's because nothing is plugged into it right now. Now, if I connect my USB key, you'll see that this one will change. So it'll select device. There's top model, and then there's also back model. So I'm going to hit my browse select. And now I've got all of my songs available. So if I just use my little browse wheel over here, it'll be able to cycle through all of the different songs that we have available. And then when I find a song that I like, I'll just go ahead and click it in, and it'll select it and load it up. Then you'll notice that our cue and our play buttons start lighting up. The other ones, I don't have anything selected right now. So one thing that I want to point out is we have a master volume right here, and then we also have a booth volume. So that's referring to these outputs that are on the back of the unit. So when I'm live streaming, I prefer to have a master and a booth. So my booth would go into whatever device is streaming, maybe like my phone or something. And then my master would go to the speakers that I'm listening to, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter, but what does matter is that I can do different levels, especially because I like to stream at night. So if I want to keep my speakers that I'm hearing down, I'm still able to keep my other master up. That'll actually go into whatever my stream audience is listening to. That helps out a lot. Usually you'll have decks that have a master and a booth out, but I'm starting to find that not all of them do. So I'm not necessarily going to break down all of the different features or functions of the GMX. I did just want to go ahead and show you guys about fixing this button, and then, at least show the functionality at a basic level. I will go ahead and link up a card to a video that helped me learn how to use these decks. That goes a little bit more in depth and shows more of the functionalities as well. Now, this guy, I do like it because the jog wheels are nice and responsive, and they spin and everything like that. And they're a little bit weighted, so they don't feel flimsy. They don't feel cheap. This device is a really great starter. I've used a number of different types of decks. I've used a number of different brands of decks. That could be like Denon or Pioneer or Gemini or Newmark or any of the other ones. And these are actually holding up pretty well. Of course, there was the one issue about the button breaking, essentially. So, of course, you have to be a little bit gentle on those. But all in all, this is a really good starter deck. I wanted a system that was a standalone system, meaning that I could use my USB keys to be able to play off of. This does also come with a license to download Virtual DJ. So you can use this through your computer and use your computer's library and DJ from there. It's just not my preference because I don't like to bring my computers around, but you do have that option. So all in all, this system ran me a little under $400. That does get a little bit more expensive than some of the other ones because it does have the standalone capabilities, but it makes it easier for me where I can bring something like this to a party and know that I just need to bring my USB key and I can play as long as I have a speaker to plug into. If you're a new or aspiring DJ and you start taking a look around for some of the different systems that are available, you'll notice that the price can skyrocket really fast. Not even joking, I've seen some systems that run into the thousands of dollars. So having an option that's standalone or is able to hook up to Virtual DJ and is below $500, that's a pretty good deal in my opinion. There is one other thing about this deck that there's a slight delay from when you hit the play button and it reacts to you. Let me see if I can get that. And of course, it's not going to do it for me right now. There can be a little bit of a delay. It's just a couple of milliseconds, but sometimes that can make it a little bit difficult in regards to keeping everything in sync. It's not too hard to be able to use your jog wheels to be able to get yourself back on track, but that is something to keep in mind. It's not necessarily as reactive as some of the other higher end DJ systems. So at the very least, I've noticed that, especially because it doesn't necessarily have a sync capability, you do have to kind of DJ by ear and make sure that everything is matched up appropriately that way.
Hey everybody, Trate coming to you from the editing room. I just want to say that I actually do encourage you to learn how to DJ from ear rather than relying on the sync button. It's going to be able to help you be a better DJ all in all. So don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a good thing to be able to practice lining up your tracks and being able to hear the differences while you're DJing live.
The other thing about this one is that it does have just minimal effects. This is your filter knob right here, which is basically like a low pass filter and a high pass filter. And that's about all that you get built into the deck. I haven't actually plugged it into Virtual DJ and tried it out through there. I want to say that you'll probably be able to find different effects available through Virtual DJ, but this one, basically, it's just going to be your filter on here. Alrighty, well, that was a quick look into the Gemini GMX. I'm going to go ahead and link Gemini's page in my description over here so you can take a closer look at this and some of the other DJ equipment that they offer. All in all, like I said, I think that this is a great starter system for somebody who wants to get into DJing that isn't going to completely break the bank, but still be able to give you a pretty good amount of capabilities. But for now, that's all I've got for you. So until next time, be safe, be kind to each other, and I'll catch you next time. Later. So that was a quick look into the Gemini.